Now, Cuba's electricity grid has suffered another partial collapse, leading to power outages across eastern areas of the island. The repeated blackouts are testing the patience of Cubans amid a U.S. fuel blockade. Widespread protest broke out in Havana on Wednesday evening as power cuts lasted more than 24 hours. Washington has offered direct aid as long as it's distributed by the Catholic Church.
Open protest is rare on the communist-run island, but hundreds took to the streets across the Cuban capital Havana to vent their anger and frustration at what has become an almost constant nationwide energy blackout, blocking roads, banging pots and shouting "turn on the lights" and other anti-government slogans.
We are demanding the right to have electricity. We've gone more than 40 hours without it. I live in a community where there are many elderly people. Many of them are bedridden, and there are lots of children. Food is going bad inside the refrigerators.
Cuba is used to shortages. It's been under a US-led embargo since 1960. It's often been helped out with fuel supplies from allied countries in the region like Venezuela and Mexico. But since the Trump administration's regime change in Caracas and punitive tariffs on Mexico, that supply has dried up. The energy minister put it bluntly: Cuba has run out of fuel.
This is the grand total of the different types of fuel that we have. Crude oil, fuel oil, we have absolutely none. Diesel, we also have absolutely none.
Cuba blames Washington for the crisis, with the president, Miguel Díaz-Canel, calling it a genocidal energy blockade. But as the situation grows increasingly desperate, the communist leadership now says it will review its previous rejection of a US offer of $100 million in aid.
And let's bring in now Andrés Pertierra. He is historian on Cuba at the University of Wisconsin, and he's currently in Germany at the moment. How likely do you think it is that the Cuban government will accept aid from the United States?
If you had asked me about this kind of offer, and the United States has made offers like this in the past, after hurricanes and the like, I would have said, pretty low. The US offers it, it's a political kind of game, and then Cuba offers it in exchange, like after Hurricane Katrina, and neither accepts. But we're in uncharted territory in a lot of ways. And I think a good sign of that is that the foreign minister, Bruno Rodriguez, posted on X, former Twitter, that Cuba had received the request privately, confirmed what Marco Rubio had said, that the request had been made previously, but now the US is making it publicly, and he accepted in principle receiving the aid depending on the conditions that came with it and what kind of aid it was and all that stuff. So that's a big change. I mean, we do have a slight precedent after a fairly large oil fire at a petroleum processing plant in 2023 or thereabouts, but it was far less money, and it was often much more in terms of aid, in terms of firefighting equipment. This would be, I think, a sea change in like the amount of aid that Cuba is willing to accept at all from the United States.
The U.S. aid will surely come with conditions, as you mentioned. What do you think they might be?
Yeah. I'm not quite sure, but given the past patterns, I would assume that it's going to insist that a third party distribute it, so probably the Catholic Church or some sort of US-approved civil society organization or churches, maybe Protestant churches as well. I would imagine that perhaps it could be linked to gestures from the Cuban government regarding political prisoners. The US has already talked about that being one of their demands previously, though not linked to aid specifically. So I could see the aid being used as leverage for that. But exactly what the conditions are is unclear, especially with Marco Rubio talking repeatedly in previous months and just now about how economic changes on the island aren't enough. You need a political change. And obviously aid is going to help people survive day to day. But if the goal of the United States is to overthrow the Cuban government, then I don't know if that means that the aid is going to come with an especially onerous condition with it. We'll have to see.
What other options does the Cuban government have to try and solve its energy crisis? Because it used to get a lot of the energy from Venezuela. That dynamic has obviously changed significantly after the ousting of Maduro. Bring us up to date on who Cuba can rely on for help.
Sure. Fortunately for television, that's going to be a short list. So Venezuela is out completely. They're not going to send oil. Trump has vetoed it. Delcy Rodriguez is not going to challenge Trump on this. No signs of doing that. Mexico stopped sending oil because Trump threatened Mexico if it did. So while she continues to say Mexico has every right to do it and sends other forms of aid, it is not sending oil as of right now. Russia sent aid, sent an oil ship, but while the United States permitted that one oil ship to get through, there's another one that they sent, the second oil ship from Russia, that has been kind of wandering around Bermuda for the last 3 weeks and has not been allowed onto the island, presumably because of U.S. pressure. So Russia is helping a little bit, but that doesn't seem like an actual solution because Cuba is completely without either oil or diesel. China conceivably could do something, but aside from sending solar panels, which is a big deal, thus far they have not been willing to send oil. And with the Iran war, with the Hormuz energy shocks and I think they have higher priorities than helping out Cuba. So I guess we'll have to see.
We have just 30 seconds left, but I need to ask you because, I mean, Cubans are known for being incredibly resourceful. They have gone through a lot of hardship in the past. Is something different this time around? What are you hearing and feeling?
Despair. Despair like I've never really seen it before. That things will not get better. The government doesn't have a solution. There is no help coming. And that the only real hope for a better future for oneself is to leave.
Andrés Pertierra, thank you so much for sharing that insight and expertise. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.